is a Cosmic Octave original podcast.
Me and Jake running down the street with a handful of comic books, kicking ass and banging chicks and drinking booze
No, not
and
me.
smoking
Not
weed.
me. I'm
Oh,
married.
Yeah, well,
I'm married.
Jake.
Can't do that.
Yeah. Off panel, off topic with Jake and Tyler.
Hey.
I'm fucking telling you, I saw them at.
Wow.
I saw them. I'll buy them and bring them on Tuesday. Promise. Monster Cereals remix.
Okay. I think you're being elitist about the monster cereal again.
Oh, really?
And here we are a year later.
Don't
back
make
to
me get
this.
out of my chair.
It's Tyler's birthday again. We gotta.
Pew pew quip, pew pew quip.
I'm Tyler.
And I am Jake.
And Jake is kind of disappointed because this next couple days was the Coke Fest in Chicago, and he's not going to be able to go, if you can hear him. Good luck.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know what? You should use a humidifier. Dehumidifier.
What we should do is my
steamer?
name is Jake, and my
Fucking pronouns.
are he him.
Me too.
No, what are your?
My
Fucking pronouns.
are he, him, and his.
Oh, cool. His?
Yeah.
I feel like you just had to say he, him.
Right, but it's usually 3.
Also, I almost again, I don't really care about pronouns. I just like to use that drop and make fun of how stupid that is.
We should say we don't what we mean by that is if you have a pronoun that you prefer to be called because based on your gender
That's
identity,
fine. I don't
we're
care.
cool.
I will call you what you want to be called.
Exactly. We're saying that guys like that who have a problem with it, like having to grow as human beings and be kind human beings to other human beings, those guys can go fuck off, and we don't care about those.
You know what it
guys.
really is.
Yeah.
Fucking pronouns. Fucking gender ambiguity.
What'd you learn at school today, honey? What did you learn at school today, honey?
What?
We just did this off air. What did you learn at school today, honey?
I already did it last week.
Oh, did we?
You just weren't paying attention to it.
Oh.
When we actually talked about it.
This episode sucks so far. Let's get it back
What
on.
are we talking about today, Tyler?
don't
Well,
fucking
let's
know.
pull it up.
It's off panel, off topic.
Well,
Jake and Tyler.
I just literally, as we were getting ready to record, finally caught up to all 5 episodes of Ahsoka. So we were going to talk about that because there's 3 episodes left. And what I'd like to do...
7 episode series. 8 episodes.
It's 8.
I thought it was 6, so I'm glad because I thought
Yeah.
there was only 1.
So what we'll do here is, this is the first 5 episodes, kind of what we got from it, and then we'll do the next batch after the final episode. We'll do the next 3, mostly because I didn't have any expectations of really watching this show because I haven't really, other than The Mandalorian, I usually haven't been watching much of the Star Wars stuff. And the Marvel stuff too. Like I skipped Secret Invasion. I'm probably gonna skip Agatha.
I don't have any. I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
So,
I like Catherine Hahn.
Like
She's
we've talked about for
fun to
months.
watch.
I think like a lot of people, I've been choosy in what I want to watch, and so I was like, you know what, I'll give Ahsoka a chance. Because you watched it, you seem to really like it.
Well, they like when it came out, I didn't have Disney Plus. I think I've talked about here how my card got hacked, and I was like, I'm just gonna let it all lapse.
Yeah.
And now about 2 months later, I've gotten almost all of them back, which is really disheartening. I got Prime on Thursday so I could watch my game. I have
Watch the
Peacock
Vikings
and
lose.
Paramount.
You spent money to watch the Vikings lose.
Shut up. I got. Wow, that was
I
rude.
mean, I'm just.
I got Paramount, Peacock. I don't have Max again. I do have Disney Plus again, but what did I get that for? For Disney or for Ahsoka? And I finally got it because I wanted to watch it and see what it was like. I really like Ray Stevenson. He is understated and he's underrated. He was underrated and he is. But he passed on like right before the show came out.
Yeah.
And so that was on my mind. And also I love Rosario Dawson and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, like 2 of my favorite, like, you know, just babe, like crush actors. You know, like you have actresses that you have crushes on, and those are definitely top 2 right there. But they're great actresses as well. Actors, I should say. I don't think they... as far as I know, everybody calls themselves actors nowadays, which I think is actually more inclusive. So they're 2 of the better actors that I know as well. So I was intrigued by that. and I don't really know the Rebels or the Clone Wars, and we'll get into that a little bit. But I knew that I wanted to find out. I wanted to see if Grand Admiral Thrawn was going to be live action. He's been one of my favorite characters for decades, and he's one of those legacy or legends characters.
Before
or
we
legacy.
get anywhere, can I just say one thing?
Yes.
This is not even spoilers or anything. I bet we don't even see Thrawn in this.
I'll
put money down.
Well, the fact that they cast somebody in the role
Could just be a voice.
Okay.
Could just be like a like an echo memory thing, you know.
I'd say if there was only one episode left, like I thought, yeah. But there's 3. They're gonna.
He still hasn't even. We haven't even.
They're gonna show him.
Seen an inkling of it.
They're gonna show him.
Anyway, so yeah, I probably wouldn't have watched it unless you wouldn't have like nudged me, like, you should try and give this a shot.
It's a great Star Wars show. I mean, if you like Star Wars, it's got everything you like.
It's funny enough because I started watching it and my wife wasn't interested in it. Because her and I are kind of in the same boat where, again, I don't think it's fatigue.
Yeah.
I think it's where we've gotten to a point where it's like, I'm not going to make it an appointment to watch this unless I know people are saying this is really good and you should give it a shot.
Right.
Unless it's The Wire. I'll never watch it. But but no, you know what I mean? So when I heard that you were liking it and like I seen some positive stuff on Twitter and stuff, I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I have some opinions on it, but I think overall I enjoy it a lot. And I gotta be quite honest. I really fucking hate Star Wars fandom. I really do, because
What is it this time?
Well, it's just it's nothing like the usual like Chud stuff. I'm just saying in general, like it really has become this. I'm gonna be honest. It's most fan bases on the internet.
Sure.
Get so. Because everybody's got their opinion, and it's a good and bad thing, right?
Well, it's mob mentality sometimes. That's what really makes it stupid.
And I think sometimes it causes a lot of like yelling and bitching about stuff for no reason. Like, I understand that some people really take pride in this property and care about it and love it, and that's great. But there's also a lot of people that pretend that they care about it and love it just so they can get clicks because they just fucking hate on it all the time.
Yeah.
And I think there are legitimate criticisms in the Disney Star Wars stuff, but let's be honest, like, in my opinion, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed The Mandalorian. I really enjoyed Andor, dude. That's 3 like live action shows on Disney Plus that I actually like, which, looking back on it, I don't know if I could say that for all those Marvel shows. You and I talked about how fast we turned on Moon Knight and stuff.
Right.
And so, like, it was just for me.
I mean, up until like the last 20 minutes of the last episode, we were like, man. And then it was like, fuck you.
Because it was such a good 5th episode that I was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
They're going to. Like,
the emotional
nail this.
fucking heft of that episode was just like, there's no way this can
And
be.
you just get to episode 6 and you're like,
What?
you know? But anyway, and that's what I mean.
And
about,
let's kill the villain off like we do in every other MCU property. Let's get rid of the really compelling villain. Sorry.
No. I agree. I think that's an issue, and I think what I really am surprised by is how consistently I've enjoyed this throughout. And again, it goes back to how I felt about The Mandalorian. I pretty much enjoyed this last season all the way through.
Right.
And it's just, I think people, again, like to hate on these properties, and I'm not saying they don't have criticisms, right? But it's like, take a look at what you're getting from Filoni and Favreau. Because we're building towards a Mandalorian movie. Like, this is, like, going to be... And this is... And we were talking about this before we went on the air, was like, you and I didn't watch Clone Wars or Rebels, but we were, like, emotionally invested in it.
Well, okay, so there was the Clone Wars by...
And imagine if we watched that, how excited we would be.
There's the
about this.
Gendy Tartakovsky version of Clone Wars, which is not recognized by Disney.
I do enjoy that, though. It is on Disney Plus.
It's a... Right, but it's not
canon.
recognized.
Yeah.
But it is a great... It's a great show. The art style
It's fun.
is... Yeah, it's just a fun, But the Clone Wars, like the more computer-generated,
The
and then
Filoni
the
stuff.
Rebels, yeah. I had once upon a time, I had a DVD called The Return of Darth Maul. And it was 4 episodes of the Clone Wars, but it was basically like 2 of them were Darth Maul, and then the other 2 were just the other 2 that came after those 2 in the series, I guess, or whatever. And they had to do with young Boba Fett. And he was...
Django? Or no, just Boba.
Yeah, it was young Boba Fett, and he was getting his teeth, cutting his teeth as a bounty hunter, which is okay. But so I watched that, and it was really cool because a lot of the first 2 episodes, I didn't know that Darth Maul is from Dathomir, like the witches of Dathomir. She mentions these because Morgan Elsbeth is a witch of Dathomir, and they are force-sensitive magic users in the Star Wars universe. And that's where I can't remember. There's a bunch of other shit that on Dathomir, but it's been destroyed in the Marvel or in the Star Wars universe, and they show how it gets destroyed in that episode. And it was really interesting, but it wasn't enough for me to change to want to go and watch, because there's like 6 seasons of each, I think.
There's a lot, and there's Rebels, and I don't think the Bad Batch is tied to this. I think it's mostly just Rebels and Clone Wars. But again, I have friends that have watched it, that watched the cartoon, like watched Clone Wars, watched Rebels, and like it seemed to enjoy this. I've seen kind of mixed. I've seen some people think it's a little boring. I understand that.
I wish I had, though.
But I think the slower pace doesn't hurt it.
No.
And it definitely ramps up in the most recent episode. But so here's another funny thing. So this past week we said, okay, we're going to sit down and talk about Ahsoka, watch at least 1 episode. So this shows you I was invested. I watched that first episode and I was like, no, I want to watch more.
Right.
Funny thing about that, I wasn't paying attention and I didn't realize this happened. I don't know how my Disney Plus did this and glitched on me. So it skips episode 2, goes to episode 3. I finish episode 3, and then it begins to start episode 4. And I'm like, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
And it like glitched out, and it completely skipped an episode.
You butt licker.
So I'll be honest, I've only actually watched 4 of the 5 episodes. I got most of the story, but not all of it. But so here's what happens. I watched that, and Sabine, Ahsoka's
Sabine.
It's Sabine.
Sabine.
Sublime, and 40 Ounce of Freedom is I'll find the joke, damn it. It ain't all just
Pew pew quip, pew pew quip.
Yes, it is.
that's what these are.
So go ahead.
Somebody said it feels like old school Star Wars. What do you
Yes.
think? I feel like it does too.
Well, the thing about it is, I mean, I know enough about these characters that I had probably a little more emotional investment than you did. Not much, but some. Really, honestly, just from Legos. They made a bunch of Legos of all these characters, like back in the day.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of their sets. I probably still have the minifigures. And I just knew, I'm like, okay, I wish that I'd watched these cartoons,
I kind of do
because
too, yeah.
the emotion, the way that they play these emotions, and the way that they're playing this whole series so far, it you can feel your heart breaking when they talk about Ezra.
Yeah.
And you can feel like, when they just have those moments where they have like one of the characters like pauses, like when Jason asks Hera about Ezra or something, and she kind of pauses and reflects. You can see she's reflecting for a moment, and it's like, wow, like that's brilliant directing, acting, writing, all of it.
That's Filoni writing for these characters,
right?
For a
Well,
long
because he
time.
loves them, and you can tell it shows, man.
He's a co-creator of Ahsoka.
Yep, absolutely.
So he has a very close attachment to all the Rebel stuff, all the Clone Wars.
And
shit.
going kind of along with that, an interesting bit when I don't know if you saw the moment where Sabine touches the mural.
Yeah.
Okay, the mural is done in the art style of the cartoons. Okay? Now, there's a lot of people on the internet who are like, well, wait a second. If this is live action, shouldn't that be live action as well, quote unquote? And here is a very interesting fan theory. Clone Wars and Rebels, or rather more Rebels, I guess, because that focused more on these guys. Clone Wars, they were in it, but they weren't the main focus. That was more Ahsoka and Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah, those were the main characters.
Rebels was more about the Phantom and the Ghost and those ships and Cutter and all those characters.
It's kind of combining them.
Right. The fan theory is that the reason why the mural is still done in the art style of the cartoon is that the cartoon Rebels is based off of Sabine's memories.
That'd be cool.
And that's why it still shows up in that art style, because that's how she draws. And that's why all those cartoons are in that art style, because they're from her memory. They're not actual. It's not an actual, recording or whatever of history or historical moments. It's how she perceived
from
everything.
a character's. That'd be interesting.
Which I've never seen the cartoon, so I don't know. And I think it would be cool if I had, and then I could go back and watch it like that. And if you have watched that cartoon, I urge you to go back and watch it with that in mind and see if it does anything for you. Because I also am really impressed by the actress who plays Sabine. She's able to bring across that like frustrated like ability, I guess. Like she knows she's capable, but she's also aware that she has limitations and she fucking hates it.
Well, this is what happens when you base your whole belief system on.
And she's a Mandalorian who's a Jedi. That's fucking cool, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
she
not-
just
not a
wears the
Jedi.
armor, but you know.
No, she's Mandalorian, is she not? They call her Mandalorian. They say that she's Mandalorian a lot
Oh, I don't know.
in the series so far. They've said
I
like,
must
well,
have
you're
missed it.
Mandalorian.
Well, I know she had the
Mandalorians
armor. I
don't
did-
typically have the
I must have missed
Jedi.
that then, yeah.
When she's training with Ahsoka, I think she says something like, well, Mandalorians, or she's talking to, Ahsoka's talking to Hu Yang, which, by the way, David Tennant, mwah, 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 mwah. You can be in anything that I watch, and I will
have
watch it
complaints.
for you. What?
I have complaints.
About what?
Not about him.
Well, what's your fucking deal?
Here's the robot problem I have with Star Wars. All right,
You son of a bitch.
C-3PO.
No.
What's his name again?
Hu Yang.
Hu Yang.
Professor
love
Hu
him.
Yang.
Love the robot characters that I can understand. I hate the beep, bop, and booping droids. Okay, we gotta develop a language subtitles, please. And the same with Wookiees. I'm just supposed to know in a different pitches.
Can I ask you a question?
What?
Would you rather have all the Guardians movies with everything Groot says having subtitles? Like, you know how...
Yeah,
how
exactly. That's what I want.
Really?
No, I'm kidding.
I'm just saying, like, it's the same thing, is it not?
No, if I'm being totally honest,
Okay.
I'm just joking. I just find it funny.
The beep and boop and droids.
Well, it's just so funny to me sometimes where it's going to be like, and I'm not saying that droids don't have personality and they don't have like emotional moments in the movies, but they've always been this like silly thing that exists in the universe because you can't not like. Example is like in the 5th episode when Jason is telling her, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, which Hera, she's like, listen to the waves. Listen, you can hear the lightsabers, you know. Before that, she's like, chopper, and the thing's like, boop, 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 and she's like, yeah, there's nothing there. It's just funny because anytime you have a serious moment, it gets undercut by like, boop, 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 and it's like, that's right, robot.
Same fucking thing happens in fucking Guardians all the time,
But
dude.
that's why it's funny.
Okay.
That's why it's fun.
Then calm down.
That's why it's not a real gripe. I was just making a joke.
Then shut up.
Fucking analyze every goddamn piece of comedy. You know what you don't think about? You don't
Where's
think
the comedy?
about...
Think of the fucking comedy! Comedy!
Damn it.
Say it again.
Comedy!
No, here's an
You know what I
interesting-
had
Crack cocaine.
before this show?
You're right, and
You're right, you did.
no, you're you're right about there is an there is an argument to be made about heavy emotional moments being kind of broken by these little ha
That's right, robot.
but here's one
It
thing
didn't really take me.
you want to know. I know you're just
I'm
shitting
just
around.
making it. I'm just making it.
But you're right about, like, that does happen sometimes. But here's one thing about the droids that I'd like to touch on, which I think is probably why Star Wars has been so successful. And that is, most of the time, the droids are real. They're built by an engineer.
Yeah.
They move, they're remote, whatever. But they're real robots. Like, that chopper is a real fucking thing. It's not a CGI, and you can fucking tell the difference.
Well,
Anthony Daniels,
the
whatever you
robot's
want to...
real. I mean,
Whatever you want to say about Anthony Daniels, because, I mean, from what I can understand, he sounds like a fucking schmuck. But Anthony Daniels, whatever you want to say about him, dude, he brought C-3PO to life. I mean, how do you think C-3PO would be if, you know what I mean? Like, if he was like, I don't know, they wouldn't have CGI'd him back then, but I just really think
you can
that's
tell
cool.
it's a real person doing that
Well,
performance.
they've all been built. These are real
Yes.
things that you can reach out and touch and everything and see, and they can walk
You know
around.
how much
with
it costs?
$1 million, bitch.
Maybe back in the 70s.
Yeah.
But the droids, I think, are always an integral part. K2SO from Rogue One is one of my favorite. What are you doing?
Boring.
I don't give a shit about your droids, right?
Well, let's
Well,
move on, then.
K2SO is great. I'm not going to
Well, let's move on. Do you want to know the probability that she's going to turn on you? It's high. It's very high.
All right, moving on. Because I guess we got nothing else. I want to talk about so many things, but
Why not? Why don't we have to talk about anything else?
I wanted to talk about the Anakin shit. We didn't touch
Why
on
don't
that.
we? Let's talk
Let's
about
do
it.
Let's do it right now.
I don't
So-
need the de-aged. We talked about that.
I have a question for
Yeah.
you. So she falls into the water,
Mhm.
and she goes into the world between worlds.
Mhm.
How does that work?
Fuck if I know.
Is it the map? Was the map would allow that to happen?
Perhaps.
It like Thrawn's stuck. Like what?
I think honestly, whatever explanation you want to give, sure.
Or was she
You
just?
know what I
Was
mean?
she just knocked out? Like what was it? You know.
I have no idea.
But-
There's so many questions that I have, and there's sometimes, if you listen to the show and you know me very well, the fact that I'm answering that question with no idea instead
great.
of
That's good.
right, because generally I am one of those people who takes myself out of shit and be like, hey, wait a second. But this one, I'm like, okay, I don't want to question how long she was in the water and how she survived. Breathing,
I don't care.
whatever.
I don't
I
care
don't
about
care.
that.
I don't care how she got in the world between worlds. I don't care if she got in the water, like if it was instantaneous to her, or if or if she was actually transported, physically. I don't give a shit. And that's the funny thing is that, generally I would be like, hey, wait a second. Beep, 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 and checking my
Yeah.
watch and looking up the tide, charts and shit. Like, what we do? And I like that. I like that I don't question it.
Yeah.
I do.
Well, and
Because you know me.
it was an interesting, and you talked about how Filoni cares, really cares about these characters. If you watch those Clone Wars shows, I think this is a really interesting way of giving those fans closure and giving, a new perspective on Anakin to maybe people that like you and I that hadn't watched that show.
Yeah.
And I go back and forth with this. So the shot when he's coming out of the cloud, like the cloud thing on the bridge, and it flashes Vader and flashes Anakin.
That was fucking cool.
I have two feelings about it. I thought it's kind of a cool shot, but it's also like,
He's walking away from her, by the way.
it's also
not
like,
towards her.
guys, I know that Anakin is Darth Vader. You don't have to do that stuff.
Yeah, but does she know that? I'm not sure if
I'm
Ahsoka
sure
at
she
this
did.
point in the show knows that Anakin turned into Darth Vader.
That's a
Maybe.
good point.
I
didn't
don't
think
know.
about- I didn't think about it from her perspective. That's an interesting.
You remember
point.
when we were watching Obi-Wan and we were like, how does he not know? And da-da-da-da. And we actually figured out that this is how he figures it out. This show, the point of the Obi-Wan show was to show how Obi-Wan finds out that Anakin Skywalker has become Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Nothing more. Fuck the whole, I met Leia back in the day. Fuck you. I don't give a shit about
It
that.
was to
Although that was
explain
entertaining.
That he knows that he's Vader in Star Wars,
Right?
which you don't need, but whatever.
Honestly, it was cool, man. Fucking Ewan McGregor loves that character.
But I will say this.
Yeah.
Just like
Wieners.
just like in moments of Obi-Wan, there's moments in this where
Sure.
like, that shot was, I thought that was an interesting decision. And again, I think if you look at it from her perspective, it makes sense to be like, this is what he's going to become. But it was a really fun experience because you saw Ahsoka running into the Clone Wars, and it's like it was shot in a smart way where, again, you can tell this is on a set.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be a very big set because I know that they use these, like, they talked about it with one of the Star Wars movies, and then they did it with Thor, where they shoot on that sound stage that's a 360 blue screen, so
Yeah.
they can actually
We
they can make sets on it and shit.
We talked about this, I think, season 2 of Mandalorian.
So I think that Star
Mandalorian.
Wars is utilizing that a little bit more here because it clearly you can tell those are extras running through a small set, and they presented it in a way that it's a memory, and they presented it in a very limited view, so they don't have to waste a bunch of money.
A lot of smoke, which makes sense for the scene.
You don't see the fight at all,
Right.
because you're seeing it through her perspective of it's cloudy.
Well,
it's
it's in the
confusing,
distance.
It's everything, and that's what makes that scene so cool and impactful. And you have the Easter egg of Anakin wearing the Clone Wars armor, and you have all that stuff. And again, you and I agree. If I had watched those shows, I feel like it'd be even bigger, like, whoa moment.
Wow, yeah.
But it does enough for me, knowing enough about the lore to be like, that's really interesting. That's cool. I know enough about those shows to understand those things.
Right.
And I just remember, because I had heard so much about it before, because I watched it late. And yeah, even with all that stuff, I was still kind of like, that's really cool how well that's crafted. And how I'm interested in Star Wars again, which is not what I expect, because I had extremely low to no I was, like I said at the beginning, I was probably going to skip this. I really didn't care. And then actually giving it a chance, I was like, this is actually a lot of fun.
Well,
and it does remind me of classic Star Wars.
Whether we like it or not, like the sequel prequels,
the sequel
trilogy, I mean.
Sequel prequel. Well, it's a sequel to the prequel to the trilogy. No, I'm just kidding.
The sequel trilogy
dead, Jake.
is not very good. It just isn't.
We talked about it on the show.
We've talked about it ad nauseum, and we know that as far as we are aware, they're trying to do something to kind of retcon it out in the next trilogy or whatever they're trying to do. But they also got like the Mandalorian movie. Somebody else is making like what is it? Mangold is making.
James Mangold's doing like a
pre-Republic era
Ben-Hur High
right,
Republic,
which would be fucking
sweet. That's what I kept saying, and that's another thing. I enjoy this show,
right?
But you can only cram so much. My dog's having a really loud night dream. I was gonna say nightmare, but he's just napping away. You derailed the whole show.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Sorry.
Get your ass to Mars.
My point was, you can only pack so much story between movies. And you need to get away. And, again, talking to other friends of mine that have actually watched the Clone Wars and the Rebels and all this other stuff, even they're like, yeah, the further we're getting away from the Star Wars or the Skywalker shit, the better. Like, we need to just leave the Skywalkers behind and let it be over. 9 movies isn't enough. We can move on. There's such a wide, we've talked about it on the show, such a wide, like, literal universe of characters. Utilize it and get away from that shit. And I understand there's a need to draw in a wider audience, but they'll be fine. If it's good quality content, they're gonna come see it.
Well, here's the thing: is that the first trilogy, you have like a year or two between movies, not a lot of time, but there's space to tell stories that were never told. And at the time, up until Disney acquired Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm was selective, but they were also really smart about allowing, different writers and artists to have interpretations of stuff that happened, that might have happened between the movies. There was also a comic strip in the newspaper during that time. So when they're in Empire Strikes Back and they're talking about the bounty hunters they met on Ord Mantell, that's in the comic strips. What happens on Ord Mantell? Isn't that cool? Like, you can go and look at it. You can go read what happened. Yeah. It's cool. But then you do... this era of entertainment doesn't do the Star Wars universe very well, and that is everything is so consumed so quickly that even if there was... they tried to do the same thing with the sequel trilogy, which is pretend that there's things happening between each movie so that, we're not just jumping right in. However, of course, the first and second of those 2 movies ends here and starts right there.
Yeah.
Which was a mistake, I think.
Yeah, and again, it's like I said, you can only cram so much.
And they way went overboard on what the fans want. Because let's be honest, fans are stupid.
You know what it is? It's hard to...
Except for our fans.
It's really hard to...
Stick around.
If everything keeps changing,
Right.
Tiki Watiti.
And also, fucking Rose Tico and Kelly, who is it? Kelly
Marie Tran?
Fucking done fucking dirty, dude, by Lucasfilm. Fucking done dirty. As far as I know, they didn't come out in support of her. They made her fucking role in the third one purposefully smaller because of the backlash instead of protecting their fucking actress.
But Ahsoka is great.
Yes.
It's not
Sloppy.
We give it a big...
Yes!
Yeah.
Yeah.
That feels right.
Yeah.
What?
What's
What we got today, Tyler?
We have so I was grabbing sodas at QT on the way out here, like I do, and I was looking and I was thinking I'm like, you know, with everything going on, we kind of have to have what's in your mouth once every so often just to fill time, because we need to make
There's
content.
strikes, man. We ain't got shit to talk about.
Right, you know, we're doing what we can. Okay, all right.
We're
Thank
trying to
you.
entertain you, motherfuckers.
Yeah, fuck you.
Be grateful.
So I go to the gas station. I'm like, okay, I'm going to kind of wander around a little bit and look at all the snack foods and candies and stuff and see if I can find something that's
that you
like,
want to put in your mouth.
well, you know, something that's we have never eaten. Have you seen that Y3000 Coke?
No.
Okay, well, I already had it, so I couldn't get that. Because that's the rule. If I've eaten it or if you've eaten it, we can't do what's in my mouth, because that means one of us has a preconceived notion of what it tastes like because we've had it. But these two I know we have not. However, I have had something similar to one of them. So Ruffles has a flamin' hot queso cheese, and on the back it says "Own your ridges." And to Ruffles, I say, don't fucking tell me how to live my life.
Wow.
Ever.
You think they're gonna be like the?
I think they're gonna be.
Oh damn it!
What?
Wow, these fucking reapers, man.
You think it's
No,
gonna be that
I don't
hot?
think they'll be that bad. But okay, I got one. You got one. And it's just a little
It's a
bag.
red chip, so you know it's hot.
Yeah, it's flaming hot.
Don't-
Queso cheese.
So remember, this is our rating scale. If we really like it, we're gonna look at that thing and we're gonna say.
I'll eat your ass.
And if we don't like it,
You are nothing but garbage, yeah. Nothing but garbage, Gaina.
You ready?
we have a middle ground though, right?
Yeah.
Is it?
Nice.
Nice.
That's basically if it's like we're not super jazzed, but we don't hate it. Oh yeah, I'm gonna put it in my mouth. We're gonna put it in my mouth. We're gonna do ASMR. This is the ASMR section of our show.
Sorry if your pants are tight.
So my first impression, I'm a big fan of Ruffles sour cheddar and sour cream. Those are some of my favorites. Old school, been around forever.
What?
These are like those if you dipped them in flaming hot powder.
I don't have the drop. The Stone Cold what?
What?
But you know, I don't know.
I
You know,
give it a nice.
I need some time. I know what I need. I need.
Come on, Cohagen, you got what you want. Give these people air.
Give me some air. Let me get another bite.
I'm gonna give it nice. It's not my favorite, but I don't hate it.
Nice.
I would agree. It's a solid.
Nice.
I gotta have the breath in there. Nice. All right. What a silly segment. Anyway,
I gotta finish.
it's been what's in my mouth.
Wait, no, we got one more.
Oh, come on.
Well, no, keep it on.
I'll keep the bait in. No,
Yeah.
they're gonna think the show's ending.
So now this one is smart food. Popcorn. There are people out there who would keep you and your beloved popcorn totally separate from Doritos. We are not those people.
Wow.
I have had the Cool Ranch Doritos flavored popcorn. And while I was eating it one day at the station, one of my coworkers was like, "Why don't you just get fucking Cool Ranch Doritos? What's wrong with you?"
Why do you bring that up every time you talk about it, man? That's the third time I've heard this.
Because it's true. Why didn't I just buy fucking Doritos?
oh,
Okay, so this is cool. This is nacho cheese Doritos flavored
the
popcorn.
best Doritos flavor. How's an accident?
It's fucking popcorn that tastes like Doritos, dude. I give it a solid nice.
You know what it sounds,
Sloppy.
but it gets a.
Nice.
That's about all I got. I wasn't impressed by either one of these. I thought I would be, but I'm not.
Yeah, I thought I'd be.
But I was actually.
Nice.
Oh, great.
Tyler, next topic. Have you seen? Before we go any further, we might have to stop the recording again to do this. Have you watched the Aquaman 2 trailer?
Yes,
You have.
I have.
Okay, so I want to talk about that.
Mhm.
What? So my expectations, much like Ahsoka, are very low. I don't really have much of expectations. That being said, I think it was a fun trailer. And what I heard about it before I saw the trailer, James Wan said it was going to be a bromantic action adventure, which it had me at bromance, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for buddy movies. Like we talked about, you talk about Midnight Run. That's like a buddy road trip movie.
One of the greatest movies.
But so I'm excited about that aspect of it. So what did you think about it? Because you're anti-DC everything. He burns books. He burns DC books. Tyler does. I've seen him do it. He doesn't burn books.
I really like Jason Momoa. He's one of my favorite people in the world. He just seems like a cool dude, just a good guy. Good guy. Having said that, I think they're going to do him dirty in the DC universe, which, okay, I think that sucks, but, he's getting one more, so that's good. And I think Patrick Wilson's also one of my favorites. Yahya Abdul-Mateen. I think it's interesting that we only saw like one shot of Mira.
Yeah.
Clearly, they're bowing to the backlash of Amber Heard. Which,
Well,
okay.
I don't know about that because I feel like part of me thinks like yes, they severely limited her role, but I
Yes.
don't think they took her out of the movie as much as you might think. I really think that this was more of a movie about Ocean Master and Aquaman than it was going to be about Mera. and
Fair.
Aquaman. I think this was always going to be about the brothers having to, reconcile the differences, except that they are brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And that interests me because you don't really see that story much in superhero movies.
Right.
But at the same time, it's the same issue you run into with Blue Beetle. It's the same issue you ran into with The Flash.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are starting to be like, why bother with this? Because James Gunn's universe is right around the corner.
Right.
And we also have the mixed messaging of Gal Gadot is in the DCU, or she isn't in it. No, she isn't in it.
Yeah, what the hell,
what are we
man?
doing? We have no confirmation on what Jason Momoa is doing. If he's going to be Lobo
Right.
now, if he's still going to be Aquaman, what's going on?
What's going on?
That being said, I still think this was a fun trailer, don't you?
Yeah.
I thought it looked interesting.
One of the things I like, they're talking about like the Black Manta mech, which is kind of cool.
And the
That's
fact,
from the comics.
and the fact that Black Manta is going to be the main focus excites me because I love Yahya Abdul-Mateen.
He's great.
He was wonderful in the Watchmen show.
Oh my god, he was so good in Watchmen.
He was fun. He was all right in the first movie.
Yeah, he was really. I really, really enjoy actors who commit to their craft. You know what I mean? And
He's going to bring it every time.
yes, I know that. There's just actors that you're like, he's going to bring it.
Yeah.
And that's he's one of them. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I think it looks interesting. I was surprised because I had heard a lot of bad things about this movie. I've heard there were people that were walking out of early screenings, like free early screenings. They were leaving early, and I don't know if that's true or not. I don't really.
Fuck you.
I don't really care. But I think if I'm just gonna go in and view this as a last ride for Jason Momoa, and and see what he can do, because I don't know if he's gonna be Aquaman in the future. I don't know if he's gonna be doing something else. But we'll see. I love Patrick Wilson. I think he's a really good actor too.
He's been in a ton
And
of shit,
I want to
dude.
see those two bounce off of each other because, again, I'm a sucker for buddy movies. I'm a sucker for that. And again, we haven't really seen a lot of those in the superhero genre.
No, we haven't. And this looks like one of those. This looks like one of those midnight runs.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a buddy
Mismatched.
It's a buddy adventure movie.
Mismatched duo.
Odd couple adventure.
Yeah, having to. Lean
brothers gotta
having to lean on each other to survive.
There you go.
Ready me down in my heel.
It's Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.
Singing that gave me a hernia. Oh, give us a hell.
I'm gonna get a cut of the trailer and see how long it'll last before fucking Warner Brothers takes it down. This trailer, but it's us just going.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no audio. It's just that.
There's a couple of brothers and they gotta get down to the hell. And there's a bad guy too.
I'm just gonna put the poster, unofficial Aquaman Lost Kingdom theme by the Amazing T-Bird and Jake Williams.
The Lost Kingdom.
The
We better
metahumans.
find it.
The metahumans. That's
We
who
gotta
it is.
find the Lost Kingdom.
Get it down.
Aquaman and Patrick Wilson.
The one guy's got a dark trident with some weird magic tied to it.
That's cool armor, man. He's got stuff shooting out of his ass, yeah.
It's Black Manta
Baby,
again.
a black man top.
Someone has crashed their car because they're like, what is this fucking obnoxious music coming out of my car right now? Who crashed your car on the freeway? It's Aquaman.
Don't forget that Nicole Kidman's in the trailer, too.
Of course. Fucking ghost Nicole Kidman.
What, she's a ghost?
Didn't she die in that
I don't
first
think-
movie?
I can't remember that.
I have not seen that.
Not a lot of rewatchability with the DCEU movies. You know what I love? I turned on my
I
notifications.
ate an edible and watched that first movie in theaters.
Well, there you
That's
go.
why I didn't remember it.
I turned on my notifications for my ESPN Fantasy Football app, and since we've been talking, since I turned it on, I've gotten nothing but so I'm
Yeah.
like, yes.
Turn it off.
Why, you
Recording.
Got you got fucking yours on.
Oh.
Oh.
Moving on.
Uh-huh.
I can't believe we did a whole Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom soundtrack right now. Tyler, did you hear about Disney's latest attempt at getting your money?
No.
With a ridiculous collector's box set. A
Oh.
Blu-ray box set.
Are we going to talk about the
4K.
founder of Rolling Stone at all?
I mean, you can if you want.
Nah, we don't have time. Next week.
I wanna-
We'll be recording again in 2 days.
Will we?
Do you want to?
I don't know anymore, man. I don't even know you. Who are you? Anyway. Son of a bitch! Turn your phone off! Anyway, the next topic. Let's talk about Disney's insane, Tyler, insane Blu-ray box set. Did you know that you can get 100 Disney movies, animated movies?
Song in the South, one of them. Is the original Fantasia with the really, really racist fucking
Hey.
segment still restored? Is that going to be in it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what I'm there's the Fantasia we see is not the full one. There was an entire segment of white centaur-like people being waited on by these incredibly offensive black caricatures.
Oh.
Oh yeah, it's bad. Really bad.
Anyway,
I've only ever seen pictures, but that's enough.
So it starts with it's animated movie. So it starts with Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, and ends with Elemental, the last Pixar movie.
Okay, yeah. How many movies is that?
Which I did not watch all the way through, but I caught a little.
Oh,
bit.
is it 100 years of Disney? So it's 100 movies.
Yeah. Something to Warner Brothers is doing something similar too with some different merch. But yeah, so I want to real quick touch on Elemental. I saw a little bit of it, and it was a fun movie.
It looked good.
It was an interesting movie. Really tugs on your heartstrings at the end. 'cause
No.
that's what all Pixar movies do. Anyway, the Disney box set is $1,500, which equals $15 a movie, which is ridiculous because you could just watch this all on Disney Plus. One, two, you can find a lot cheaper at used game or used video stores that still exist. You could probably have Amazon ship these to you for even less. You know what I mean? So I think it's just ridiculous. And to release things like this when you have a strike going on and you have all this stuff where you're clearly trying to, and I don't know, it's $1,500 for
it's
this
really
is
stupid.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really stupid, and it's It's just it's tone deaf is what it is. It's hey, how many people right now are struggling in this world? And we're gonna go ahead and throw out something that's completely not worth $1,500. Oh well, the property, the intellectual property is worth $50. Shut the fuck up, okay? About you and your intellectual property, because I got news for you. You have too much of it, and you don't even use it right, and you piss it away every day. Okay, the more you acquire, the more you fucking suck at it, because you don't have enough people who love and care about these IPs. So shut up about your IP and protecting it and getting paid for it, because it was never yours to begin with. You just bought it from somebody else. Eat shit, Disney.
Well, did you hear? Speaking of copyright,
Did I go a little off the board?
Yeah, you did. We're getting your ass back to Mars, though.
Where is it?
Well, speaking of copyright, so do you? I have a trade of it in my bookshelf. Do you remember the book or hearing about the book called Fables?
Yes.
Where it was like a modern, modern day with all these fables actually existing, and you follow.
Isn't it Brian K. Vaughan?
No, it's Bill Willingham.
Oh.
And well, I just remembered about this. He gave up the trademark, so it is under public domain now because he had a fight with Disney to get the IP, and he had to make it. It's hard to explain.
Well, okay, like the Imagination Land.
Sorry, I found what I was looking for. So, according to Willingham, what he said was that, he couldn't essentially negotiate with DC Comics in good faith, and so he had to make Fables public domain. He says in a Substack, he says that, quote, honest men and women of integrity who began the relationship were released, and by DC was being led by a revolving door of strangers of no measurable integrity. As a result, whenever he needed to work with the company, DC would interpret every facet of our contract in ways that only, okay, fuck off. Sorry, I got a big-ass ad pop in my face, so I'm trying to read this. He also says that DC would interpret every facet of his contract in ways that only benefit DC Comics and his owner companies, i.e. Alan fucking Moore and Watchmen, that whole deal. So it's no surprise that, Bill Willingham, made Fables public domain, which also includes the video game, The Wolf Among Us. That was a big deal for Telltale Games.
The thing, I don't understand copyright law that well, and I do know that a lot more shit. Disney. It's funny because Disney themselves are responsible for rewriting copyright laws
for Mickey Mouse
to make sure Mickey Mouse will never enter the public domain.
75 years after the original creator.
But they had it. Exactly. They rewrote it and everything, which helps all their IP. That's great. But the Imagination Land of South Park episode, Imagination Land episode of South Park. There's a scene where there's a lot of IP in those episodes, a lot of different ones, and they explained it on. I bought like the DVD set of those three episodes, 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And they talked about it, and they were like, "Well, it was actually really easy. We didn't really have to ask Mattel for their permission to use strawberry shortcake because our lawyer was like, make all of the strawberries cherries on her hat."
Yeah, just make slight changes.
Slight, the slightest of changes,
Yeah.
And it's like, that's interesting, but also like, how easy is it to just rip shit off?
Well, that's how you create the archetype of characters and superheroes. Yeah, exactly. And
here's the funny thing is that I watched the whole 3-episode arc, and then I watched the special features, and I didn't once focus on Strawberry Shortcake's hat. Not once. I saw the special feature, and I went back and watched it just to make sure, and sure enough, they're cherries. And I'm like, how did I not notice that?
Yeah.
I completely did not. It just was, my brain told me that those were strawberries, and I didn't need to make sure. You know what I mean? So, I mean, copyright law is interesting, but it's also a bunch of shit. Unless I had a really expensive IP, then I'd be really interested in it. So there we are talking about Disney being a fucking bunch of shitheads.
What a segue.
No shit.
What is that?
How are we doing that?
Nobody's going to find that funny.
Well, let's
All right,
end
anyway.
the episode then. It's over.
Boring!
All right, Well, I had a couple things I want to talk about. We'll do them some other time.
Let's save them for Tuesday.
Let's do a different style of this certain segment. Well, I'm talking about the
It's a long box.
All right, Tyler, but this is a special edition of the long box.
Do
Today,
you want one of these bags? What do you want?
nothing. You didn't give it to me in the time of the sounder. The sounder is crunch time. We all know this.
Literally crunch time.
Anyway, we're going to do something called, you can call it a guilty pleasure, although I don't, because I don't feel guilty for enjoying a movie. But these are going to be movies that we love that most people hate. And
Can you pause it for a second?
all right,
So, movies that we don't necessarily that we love that
but most people hate.
Mhm.
And I'll go first.
Not most people hate, but maybe just a lot of people don't know about.
like critically and generally, people weren't really into it.
Sure.
We don't want to base all of our lives on Rotten Tomatoes.
Go.
I'm just saying the example of this is just say how we all have different tastes. You know, I know that some people really don't enjoy Nacho Libre, but I fucking love Nacho Libre. All right,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's secretly. I don't want to say that it's secretly
Brilliant!
but it kind of is, you know. I mean, you get Jack Black in there, and you.
I got what I paid for.
No, in all seriousness, this movie is directed by Jared Hess, who also did Napoleon Dynamite. And
Right.
I was talking to my wife about this because I mentioned this topic, and I said this movie. She was absolutely. I think most people, generally, people were like, "This is a silly, stupid movie that they didn't." It was whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but I enjoy it.
Right.
Which is weird because Napoleon Dynamite had a lot of success. And it's very similar styles from Napoleon Dynamite to Nacho Libre.
Mm-hmm.
It's the minimalist, weird, sometimes like just gross, off-putting, weird humor, but somehow there's so much. It's hard to describe why I like Nacho Libre so much. Maybe just because of how unabashedly silly it is. Like it knows it's a comedy. It knows it's also aimed at a little bit of a younger audience too.
Sure.
So it isn't too like
Well,
vulgar or anything like
A
that.
great example to me is Clerks and Mallrats. I think there's a lot of people who saw Clerks, loved it, and then were like, "Awesome, Mallrats, let's go see that." And they were completely,
what's the follow up?
but they were completely turned off by Mallrats. And why were we completely turned off by Mallrats? Because we expected, I don't know what we expected, but we didn't expect Mallrats. And we expected something. We put expectations on his thing, and we were like, "Fuck it, we're not gonna." We want. How can I describe it? Because Mallrats is a great movie, but when I first watched it, I didn't like it. I was like, what is this shit?" It was just,
Yeah.
it seemed like not like
Well, well, you and I were talking about it, and I think that like with
people expected that of Nacho Libre after Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
People put expectations on his follow up, no matter what it was going to be.
and I think that
And it's a good movie.
I enjoy it just because it's like
Gassy, what the fuck?
you and I talked about probably because you're eating the fucking popcorn.
Yeah,
all
maybe a
day.
little bit.
Gosh.
Just
But
put
yeah, we
pockets of air in my tummy.
thought we said we'd stop eating food on the
Oh,
air.
fuck me. Well, one more bite.
But I think that it like you could say a cheaper or poor man's Wes Anderson style of humor, where you're seeing that impact of what Wes Anderson had done and really carve out a new kind of genre in comedy, where it's this quirky, low budget, showcasing people that don't look a certain way, like when you watch. And I'm not saying that anybody's ugly by any means, but I'm saying like in Nacho Libre especially, you're not getting traditional like Hollywood actors to do this movie. You're basically getting Jack Black and a couple other actors, but it's mostly these extras that are probably, and I don't know if they shot in Mexico or not, but I imagine it was more of like local.
I like to think they did.
Why wouldn't they get like local Lucha Libre wrestlers to do it? Like, why wouldn't they? It would make so much sense because, and like that's like if you ever get a chance to watch Lucha Libre, watch it because that shit's entertaining. That's just so much fun, like pro wrestling.
One of my favorite pro wrestlers of all time is Rey Mysterio Jr.
That's how I know you watched him when he was in WCW, because you called him Junior. He was never. It was just Rey Mysterio in the WWE. But and yeah, it does. It's a silly movie. It's a dumb movie. And my wife made a joke that it's such a formidable movie for me that I made it my personality, which is true because I got this movie on my birthday on DVD, not knowing if I'd really like it or not, and it ended up being a movie that I still watch sometimes to this day, which is just funny because and if you have criticism against this movie, I get it, I truly do, but I just liked that style of comedy, and I love it. I love that comedy has shown throughout the years how versatile it can be. Another example I would think of like that, like a quirky comedy that's dark and different, fucking Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh,
I'm
way to take mine.
That's for a different week. But I'm not by any way comparing Nacho Libre to Eternal Sunshine.
No.
I'm just saying that's the example of variety in the genre. You know what I mean? Don't want anybody to confuse that.
Yeah, Eternal Sunshine is fucking bizarre. It's funny, it's heartbreaking, and bizarre.
You know what it will do?
I'll eat your ass.
It'll eat your ass. Sorry. Anyway, what's your movie that you love that a lot of people probably hate?
So back in, it was way before 1994. It was probably more like 89, 90, 91, those 3 years or so. And at the time, entering into the 90s, the biggest genre of music was heavy metal, or glam metal, or rock and roll, whatever you want to say, Panama, or Van Halen. It was Van Hagar by that point, I think. Van Halen, Bon Jovi, a lot of those, Skid Row, a lot of those bands that were kind of glammy but also heavy. And there was a superficiality to it that was born out of the 80s. And all of a sudden, all these not very good looking and kind of shabbily dressed and kind of, they didn't tease their hair or anything. These yahoos from up in Northwest America are coming down and fucking taking over music and shit.
Come on now.
That was Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden
These
and
whiny
Alice in
punks.
Chains. And what is all this flannel and shit? And it was weird because it was... to live in that time, it can't be overstated how big of a deal it was, the Seattle sound, so to speak. A&R reps would go to Seattle and sign like 10 bands in a weekend, and not one of those bands would ever make it to the radio. Why? Because that was the thing to do. Years after that, if you were an quote-unquote alternative band, it didn't matter if you were good or not, they'll sign you and they'll give you a single and you get a one-hit wonder, like, Dishwalla with the Counting Blue Cars. It's not a bad song, but who gives a shit? I don't remember anything else about them. Whatever. Candlebox is another one. Candlebox was a shitty band, but because they actually played in the state of Washington when they were signed, they were this Seattle sound and just shit like that. Yeah. Paul Westerberg, who a lot of people say with the Replacements in the 80s kind of coined and kind of formed along with like the Minutemen and all those indie bands, kind of helped pave the way for alternative bands. He's the guy who does the music for this movie that we all hotly anticipated in 1994. And he's from Minneapolis. Huh? This movie is called Singles. Now, if you ever watched Jerry Maguire, he's done a bunch of other movies, but Almost Famous. But Cameron Crowe is a filmmaker of great renown. He makes really human movies. No matter how many stars are in the movie or what the subject is, it always comes down to human connection. And this movie is one of the best capsules of the 90s grunge Seattle sound movement, if you will. Chris Cornell's in it, just briefly. They show Alice in Chains playing live when they're at a club. They go to a club to watch Alice in Chains play live. 3 members of Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder, Jeff Ament, and Stone Gossard, all play members of Matt Dillon's band called Citizen Dick, which is really, really funny. And there's all of that going on, but then you also got Campbell Scott, you got Jim True, you got Bill Pullman, Bridget Fonda, Matt Dillon, as I already said. A lot of people in this movie, and it's a great movie because it's a movie about love and finding love in a crazy world. And at that time, the world wasn't as crazy as it is now, I promise you, because I'm watching this movie, I'm like, man, this is fucking, Can you remember when the only phone that you had was at the office or at home? Man, remember those times? But the thing about it is not only is the music and everything really great, but it's just really, really funny. There's a moment where two characters having sex for the first time, and the woman, and they show it from just their faces. And the woman's on top, and she's like, "What are you thinking right now?" And he kind of has this look on his face, and they show this locker room with Xavier McDaniel, who played for the Seattle Supersonics, and he's getting interviewed. And he's like, "I don't go out there to beat up this guy or beat up that guy, and I don't go out there to I'm gonna beat somebody up or whatever. I just I go out there and I play my form of basketball, and that's what I'm gonna do." And then the guy goes, "Is there anything else you want to say to the fans, X?" And he gives him a microphone back, and he goes, "Yes, Steve, don't come yet." And it's fucking brilliant. Do you remember Jerry Maguire where they had those little vignettes where they would show his mentor and he would say, it was that old guy behind the desk and he would say something and then that's all they showed of him? There's a lot of those things in this movie too. Tim Burton is in it. He plays this dude who's in a coffee shop who's like, "Yeah, I'll direct your dating video or whatever." And he's the next Martin Scorsese. Okay, so you gotta trust this guy. That's what they say. It's really funny. But it's about human connection. It's a great capsule of the 90s. And at the time, we were all anticipating it because it was like, oh my God, this is all the music we've been listening to, and it's finally going to be made into a movie, which it wasn't exactly that. And that's why it got kind of a bad rap. And also, it wasn't very critically well received and was definitely not box office gold, okay? But if you get a chance, it's free on the Roku channel right now. It's called Singles. It's got a great fucking soundtrack. Yeah, Smashing Pumpkins is on the soundtrack, which they're from Chicago. What? But the point is, it's a good movie. If you've never heard of it, it's really fun, and it's really just an interesting way of some of you might be young enough that your parents are like my age, so it's kind of an interesting way of looking what your parents grew up with, kind of. I don't know. If you're interested in the 90s, check it out. Also, I don't fucking care if you do.
Wow.
Who gives a shit?
What a way to end the show.
You know what? I'll end your show.
112 episodes. We're done.
What?
That's it. No more.
I don't have a joke for this one. It's 112.
What the hell? It's 112.
112. Somebody's got to get colonoscopy by now. Because it's been a couple years. Make sure after 50 that you get them every couple years so you don't get prostate cancer. Well, I'm saying.
That is a good PSA.
It is a really good PSA. I'm about due for another one.
That's the impression you want to leave.
The best thing about getting a colonoscopy was it creates a lot of gas. It creates a lot of air in your cavities, and so when you get done, they tell you, they're like, "Hey, just pass gas if you need to." So
rip a fart.
So I woke up to my mom and the nurse going, "Just pass gas if you need to, sweetie." I'm like, fucking best doctor advice I ever got. It was awesome. Off panel, off topic with Jake and Tyler.